Hello everyone, Jolene here from Bookworm Adventure Girl. Welcome back, and if you are new, thanks for checking out my channel. Please hit subscribe and stick around. Today I am doing another author spotlight as part of the Reading All the Books series that I've been doing. I feel like it's been a while since I did one of these videos. So for this series, I am featuring an author that has published 4 or more books, and I have to have read all of their books or all of a category of their books, like all of their fiction or all of their nonfiction. So today I am highlighting one of my all-time favorite Canadian people, and that is Chris Hadfield. And I have talked about Chris Hadfield many times on this channel, and I have read all 4 books that Chris Hadfield has published. And as usual for this series, I am going to share my thoughts on these books from least enjoyed to most enjoyed. So my ratings for these books range from a 3-star rating, which was, if I'm being honest, probably a 2-star, to 5 stars. And there's only 4 books, and 2 of them are 5 stars. So that's still pretty darn good. So for those of you who might not know who Chris Hadfield is, I will start by saying that he is a very well respected and beloved Canadian, originally from Sarnia, Ontario, and probably his biggest claim to fame, although he has many, is as the first Canadian to walk in space. Colonel Chris Hadfield retired in 2013 as a heavily decorated astronaut. He flew 3 space missions and did 2 spacewalks. Plus, he's a talented musician with an album out, and he's an author, which is why I am talking about him today. So after his retirement, Chris Hadfield has not slowed down. He still does a lot of speaking engagements, and he still promotes space and our planet in various ways. And I think a couple of the things that I love most about him is that when he was in space, he brought space to Earth like no one had before. He would meet virtually with students and talk about space and science and answer questions. And you can just tell that he has such a huge passion for what he does, and he has a great desire to share that with others, and especially young people. And I had the opportunity to hear him speak a number of years ago now, and he signed one of my books for me, and I was even more impressed with him in person. He really was who you think he is. He's funny, he's interesting, and even though he's like the coolest person in the room, he doesn't have an air about him in any way. He seems like a very genuine human being, which is very refreshing, and I think it's also why people of all ages love him. Kids dress up as him for Halloween, and even his books, which I'm going to talk about, are all, very different and for different audiences. So I'm going to share these in order of enjoyability, from least to most enjoyed, and I realized that in this case, that also means that I will be sharing them in reverse order of publication, so reverse publication order. So here we go. Published in 2021 was one of my biggest literary disappointments of last year, and that is Chris Hadfield's debut thriller, The Apollo Murders. This was one of my most anticipated books of last year, and, well, this book was just not for me. I know other people who really, really enjoyed it. I thought for sure it would be a hit, because the premise sounds so good. It takes place in space, obviously. Just from the title, we know there are murders. And I've never really thought about, what would happen if a murder actually did take place in space. So that thought never occurred to me before reading this. Plus, it was an astronaut writing the book, so I didn't think I could go wrong with this one. But I was bored out of my mind. It is heavy on the science side, so if that's your thing, then you might really get along with this book. I didn't connect with the character the characters at all. I didn't care about the murders or really the story, and it was just a disappointing read for me. So on Goodreads, I rated this a 3-star. But seriously, I gave it a star just because it was Chris Hadfield. So it should really be a 2-star for me. Okay, so the good news is that it can only get better from here. And next up is a children's book called The Darkest Dark, which was published in 2016. And I gave this book 4 stars. Now, perhaps I should have given it 5, since my edition does glow in the dark, which is very cool. But I didn't. I talked about this book when I participated in the Picture This 2022 read-along that was hosted by Shelly from Shelly Swearengen's Library and Jack from Spread Book Joy. And they both have, great channels, and it was a lot of fun to take a look at picture books. And I chose to do mine with all Canadian picture books, so of course I had to include this one. The story in this is inspired by Chris Hadfield's childhood, and the main character is young Chris, who is fascinated by the planets and loves to play astronaut, but at night he's scared of the dark. And like Colonel Hadfield, young Chris gets inspired when he watches the moon landing, and young Chris realizes that he can overcome his fear of the dark. So I love that Chris wrote a children's book, and as I said earlier, he really wants to spread that passion and excitement for space and science. Now, there was a reason I only gave it 4 stars, but I can't actually remember what that reason was. But this is just a really sweet book. So that leaves us with the last 2 books, which I gave both of them 5 stars. And the first one was published in 2014, and it's called You Are Here, Around the World in 92 Minutes. And these are photos from the International Space Station. So another thing about Chris Hadfield is he's very good at photography. And in this book, he uses that talent to show us our planet and to appreciate it in a new way. So I would say that this is kind of the equivalent to a picture book that Chris Hadfield did for adults. So these are pictures that Chris took himself, and if you followed his Twitter feed when he was in space, you would have probably seen some of these already, but there are many that had never been seen before this was published. So the format of the book is to basically represent one orbit of the International Space Station. And there are pictures from each of the continents, so I will put a few pictures up for you to see those. Chris Hadfield often still shares his photos if you follow him on Instagram or Twitter, and I can leave all of those links below. The second book that I gave 5 stars to, and the book I enjoyed the most, is An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, which was published in 2013. And this is an autobiography which is about, obviously, Chris Hadfield's childhood and his inspiration for wanting to become an astronaut, how he became an astronaut and the training and all of that. So it follows his career and his personal life. And what I loved most about this book was how it was presented. So Chris Hadfield tells us, the thought process behind things. So, for example, once he decided at a very young age that he wanted to be an astronaut, he decided to think like an astronaut. So what would an astronaut eat? What would an astronaut wear? How would they do things? And basically he was constantly thinking about being an astronaut in order to actually become one. And this helped him in his career as well. And then the second thing that I loved about this book is that I learned more about space and just the practical things that I would have never really thought about before, like things like how do you go to the bathroom in space, and what does zero gravity really do to your body. And what do astronauts do all day? I had no idea how busy and regimented that whole thing is. So plus this book is written in a way like Chris Hadfield is speaking, so you get a feeling of him sharing his life in a really intimate way. So those are the 4 books that Chris Hadfield has published. Hopefully there will be more. They are all very different. I would say that if you are interested in, learning more about Chris Hadfield, the person, then the autobiography is definitely the way to go. If you are interested in space itself, photography, and learning about our planet, then You Are Here would probably be a good starting point. Obviously, if you have children, the children's book and the picture book is, especially the edition that I have that glows in the dark, it's definitely worth it. And yes, I think that even the Apollo Murders, even though I didn't like it, I think it has readers who will love it. So if you, lean more to the science behind things and you want a fictional story with some historical elements, then the Apollo Murders might be more enjoyable for you. I will leave links to Chris Hadfield's social media and website and to all of the channels and videos that I've mentioned. You can check those out if you're interested. Please let me know if you have read any of Chris Hadfield's books before, or if you are interested in any of them, or maybe you have an author that you have read all of their books and you would like to recommend them to me. I'm always happy to hear whose people's favorites are. I'd be very happy to hear about all of that. So thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and don't forget to make every day an adventure.